What's going on, everyone? Eric here. Hope you're all doing good today. In this video, we're going to start off with some espresso basics. If this is your first time checking me out, thank you, welcome. Please take a second, give me a like, maybe subscribe, maybe leave me a comment. But anyway, I am trying to bring more people into the world of home coffee, teach people the basics, and yeah, so let's get into it a little bit. So in this video, this is video number 1 in my series of just learning about how to make espresso. And we're going to go over just something very simple in this one, some terms, some words, some definitions. That way we're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, where in part 2 I start saying things like, you're gonna do this and that, and you're gonna touch the wingle wobble, and you're gonna do the dingle doop. The first term that I wanna cover is espresso. What is espresso? So, big misconception here, espresso is not a type of coffee bean. Espresso is a type of coffee, or a style of making coffee, I should say. So you can make espresso using any kind of bean, be it dark roast or light roast or medium roast or from this country or from that country or a blend of these different kinds of beans. The important thing is how it's prepared. Now, you do see some beans out there labeled as espresso, and that just means whoever the roaster is, whoever the company is behind that bean, they decided this is what we think tastes good as espresso. This is what we think tastes good as espresso. So anyway, that's why some beans say espresso. Generally speaking, espresso is when you take a very finely ground coffee and you extract it, meaning that you are going to get the coffee out of the beans under a good amount of pressure. That's what espresso is. And then the little beverage that ends up in your cup, that is the beverage named espresso. So espresso as a process, taking finely ground coffee and extracting or getting the juice out of the bean by applying lots of pressure. Espresso as a drink is a very highly concentrated coffee made on an espresso machine. There you go. That's what espresso is. It's not a type of bean. It is a method of making coffee, and it's also the name of a drink. All right, now let's go over a few parts of the machine. This guy right here is often called a portafilter or a portafilter handle. I've heard it called a group handle in some places, but most people call this a portafilter. So this whole unit here, this bad boy, called a portafilter. All right. Inside of your portafilter, you have your portafilter basket. So this is what people are talking about when they talk about a portafilter basket or a basket. It's the part that you put the coffee in that the portafilter holds. Got it? Now, the basket. If we're gonna be making espresso, all right, and if you're gonna wanna get some value out of my videos, I'm gonna be talking about, when I talk about making coffee, a espresso basket, a standard basket, which means, and I'll give you a close-up, got lots and lots of little holes on the bottom here, because the thing that is creating the pressure is the resistance of the coffee. Well, the thing that is creating the pressure is the pump in the espresso machine, but the resistance that the coffee makes when a pressure is being applied. So we don't have too much resistance coming from these holes. It's from the coffee that's going on here. Now, there is another kind of basket out there. It is called a pressurized basket. That is it. If you can see here, I'll close up. As you can see here, it only has a little tiny hole. Now you look at this side, it has lots of little holes, but the bottom has only one little hole. That is not meant for making espresso by the definition that we're talking about, because this basket creates the pressure, not the actual coffee, the coffee grinds, the ground coffee creating the resistance. All right, so there you go. When we talk about a basket, we're talking about this thing. Great, okay. The next thing we're gonna talk about is on the espresso machine itself. Come here. Wasn't actually that heavy, I don't know why they made that noise. The group head, this part right here. The group or the group head. This is where your portafilter locks into. So when we say the group head, we're talking about this part right here where your portafilter locks into. All right, got it? Good. Another definition for you. Underneath here, if you look underneath, you're gonna see there's another thing that looks kind of like, almost like another portafilter basket. It's a little screen with a lot of little holes. That is called your shower screen. That is gonna help make the water come out evenly, because as we're gonna learn, espresso is all about keeping things even. So that is called the shower screen. We're getting somewhere. We're getting there. We're covering terms. We're learning words for things. All right. next thing to learn, this is called a tamper. No matter what shape, style it comes in, it's called a tamper. Usually with your espresso machine, you get a kind of plasticky one. The size is important. You want it to fit in there properly, but this is called a tamper, and this is how you're going to pack those grinds, pack up those espresso grinds so they are nice and packed and pushed together so that when we create that pressure, there's some resistance. There you go. That is a tamper. The next term we're going to learn is the steam wand. You all probably already knew this one. Steam wand right here. That's where you're going to steam your milk if you choose to drink milk. There you go. All right, steam wand. Fairly simple one. All right, cool. Yeah. All right. All right, now a couple terms that I'm going to be using in future videos to help you understand what we're doing here. So I'm going to talk a lot about extraction or extracting the coffee from the beans. So when you're making coffee, no matter what kind of coffee, what your goal is to do is to take that bean and then mix it with water somehow, and then to get coffee out of it, right? That process where we're going to be taking that bean and turning it into a drink, that's basically what I'm talking about when I say extraction. Now, what's really happening in there is we're actually dissolving parts of the coffee bean. We're dissolving it, getting little pieces of coffee and melting it down and making it into a drink. That's what the extraction is doing. We're getting dissolved solids into the water. That's what we're going to call extraction. But just, for the purpose of simplicity, I'm talking about turning coffee, beans, and water into a drink. That is extraction. Just the simplest definition I can think of for that. And finally, the term that I'm going to be using a lot in my espresso tutorials is ratio. Now, ratio is how I'm going to explain the recipe. You guys know what a recipe is, right? And the ratio is, and I'm sure many of you know this already, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ratio is the amount of ingredient 1 and the amount of ingredient 2 to get to the final recipe. Now, the ratio that I'm going to be using often would be something like, let's say I'm doing a 1-to-2 ratio. So let's say 20 grams of coffee in here to 40 grams of drinkable coffee in my cup. That is a total of a 1-to-2 ratio. The 20 grams is the 1, the 40 grams is the 2, 1-to-2 ratio. That's it. That's a ratio. So for now, these are the terms I want you guys to know so that when I talk about them in the video that's coming up next in the series, number 2, we know what I'm talking about. So there you go. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. And let's move on to the next video so that we can actually learn how to make some espresso. All right, I'll see you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.